Overall, still love the game. It is so good. The action is top notch. The monsters are fantastic with the designs. The roster is good. I'm just hoping we get a lot more in title updates like they've done in the past.
Yeah, and I think a key piece of context for that criticism is, well, one, it doesn't mean the game is bad, right?
Nope,
like it doesn't mean that the actual fights aren't fun. And two, that criticism is a very common response to my review I saw was, oh, well, base monster hunters are never hard, right? Base monster, you always have to wait for the updates. You always have to wait for G rank or the expansion or whatever for the real fights to show up, which is true to some degree. But the important context here is that criticism of it being too easy and not making you think is in the context of compared to other base games. Because I also reviewed Iceborne, Sunbreak, and Rise, and compared to Rise's base game, which I found easy, this game feels easy. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that is the important thing that people need to keep in mind when we say these things is it's not just, oh, well, it'll get patched eventually, right? And also, like, I do think that there is sort of a pushback I would do to, like, well, if your defense is we just got to wait until they let us pay more money for an expansion until the real fights start, that feels kind of crappy to me, right? Like, shouldn't this full-priced game have satisfying challenges in it as well, right? Why are we using that as a defense of, well, you just got to wait a year and pay $40 more for whatever they're going to sell us next for the real game to begin? Like, that doesn't feel like a valid defense to me. It still should have some of that stuff in the base game.
Yeah, that's the big problem with modern games and like live service stuff is that it's a moving target. It's gonna change probably for the better. Occasionally they come in and screw something up, but generally speaking, like games post-launch get, patches, whether that's to the gameplay or to the performance or both, or they just get new content that adds stuff. But you did an interesting thing in your review that you called out basically what the roadmap looked like in previous games. And even based on what you know now, like if you're reviewing what's in front of you, the current game as it is, even if you are accounting for what's coming down the proverbial road, it still seems light in that department.
Yeah, we went back, Casey, you and I went back at one point and looked at the update history of World and then also the update history of Rise. And World, what was it? It was like every 2 months World got a new monster, roughly.
Yeah. And we didn't necessarily like know 100%, I think, but we did know that there were more new monsters.
Yeah.
Immediately. Like more than what we know now.
And then Rise, like putting it frankly, basically launched unfinished. Like the end of its story wasn't even in the game. It didn't have a bunch of things that you would expect at launch, but it got 6 new monsters in an update a month after the game came out, and then I got 3 more a month after that. And the update roadmap for this game, and we don't know for sure if they're going to add more to this, but their update roadmap currently says 1 new monster, which is a returning monster in spring, and then an additional monster that they haven't named yet in summer. And that to me, like the Rise roadmap said, originally its first title update said Chameleos and more monsters, right? They very specifically said, this one specific monster is coming, and then also more we haven't told you about yet, which they didn't do here. They just said Mizutsune is coming in spring, another monster is coming in summer, which to me implies we're going to be waiting until June before we get our second monster added to this game. And like, that's not a blisteringly fast pace, especially compared to
the
Rise.
last 2 entries.
Yeah, especially compared to World, a little less so. Rise got 9 monsters in 2 months, right? That's a huge influx of stuff, even if it started slimmer. And so I'm very optimistic because I trust Capcom, right?
Yeah,
I do think that they will do a good job with updates. They've shown through the betas that they've been extremely good at responding to fan feedback and requests. That is a huge, huge sort of plus in the column of I think this will work out and this game will get better. But also I am a little wary of just writing it off as, oh, well, it'll just be fine in 6 months, because we don't, like, their plan is pretty vague right now. Their plan is pretty light as far as we know it right now. And that doesn't inspire, blind faith. It just sort of, I'm optimistic, but a little little wary, I guess is the right way to put it.
I also want to clarify some. I feel like there is an end game here where I feel like in Rise, when it first came out, there was not. And I also want to clarify as well, like we know that Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter World were made by different teams. They have like a main team and a portable team. And I know that doesn't make quite as much sense now, but that's how it is structured. But Wilds does have an end game. Tom is just saying that he doesn't feel a need to engage in it because he was able to beat everything without engaging in that end game.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people, like myself included, will want to engage in that end game because we know or assume, as Tom just said, like we trust Capcom to come out with more content that we will want to engage in that end game to be able to beat. And like even I, like I kind of made just randomly like what I could at the very beginning of what you would call high rank, and that got me through all the way through until almost, I think I have one more monster to unlock. Again, I'm on guide, so I had to keep stopping for random stuff. But I have one more monster to beat, but all the way up into the second to the last monster, I didn't have to make any new stuff. I think I had like Kutku and Chatacabra and Hirabami high rank arbor.
Yeah, I crafted the final boss of the low rank gear, and I ran that. I've cleared every side optional fetch quest. I've done everything other than hunting for fish and like various like random endemic life, which I think I'm only missing 1 or 2 right now, as well as, and then the small and large crowns. That's all I have left to do in Monster Hunter Wilds, which is outrageous for me to be at that point with, I think I've got 70 or 80 hours total right now with doing, and that's everything. I think with like World and stuff, like I think 70, 80 hours, I was like, okay, I think I'm finishing the campaign now. And now I can start like going for like the post fashion hunter stuff and things like that. But like,
and again, and this is in the context of somebody who has played a lot of Monster Hunter games. Like this wasn't, it was not like World was your first one. No.
Like I said earlier in the show, I started with 1, I sucked at it. I started at 2, I started to figure it out, still died and carded a ton of times. I was in high school. I didn't know what I was doing, what buttons to press on my PSP. I was really dumb. And then when I got try is when it clicked. And then, so like, go ahead, Casey.
I'm sorry. The older games too, I feel like had more artificial difficulty compared to
They do.
modern ones.